All right, let's wrap up the Super 12s, shall we? The final set of fixtures for every team starts today, and New Zealand and Ireland kick things off at what's a sunny Adelaide Oval. Australia will wait thereafter to try and bring in a performance of strength to not only pick up the 2 points they so desperately need, but also boost that net run rate, try and even pip it above England and hope for a result to go their way tomorrow when Sri Lanka and England play at the SCG. Before all of that, New Zealand are still best placed to finish top of that Group 1 points table. All they need to make sure is they get the job done against Ireland. Ireland, who love killing a giant or two, have already slayed the West Indies and England. Can they go off on a high before they bow out of this tournament? Well, that's what we look forward to on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket Info T20 Timeout. It's a very good morning to Robin Uthappa and Tom Moody in studio. You normally get a feeling about how a day is going to go in the morning. So does anyone's gut tell them that there could be some giant killing today? There could be some slip-ups today. Nobody's gut is telling them that this morning?
Look, I wouldn't sort of take anything out of the equation. When we look over the last few weeks of this World Cup, we've seen a lot of giant killing. So is there one left? Maybe
it makes for such a good tournament, right? When you do get the odd upset. So Ireland beating England, Zimbabwe beating Pakistan, Namibia beating Sri Lanka. It makes for a fun tournament. Can we have one more? No?
Do we need one more?
Do we?
Isn't it already a World Cup of upsets?
But there's a few teams, like Australia need it. Of course we do.
But they have been playing some excellent cricket. You got to give them credit. You know, they've bowled well, they've batted well. We've seen some really good hitting from some of their batsmen, and you can't take them lightly for sure. They're not a team you should take lightly because they've got the stuff there.
Yeah, they've impacted this group already so significantly. Just making sure England don't get the 2 points that they thought they'd have. Even that defeat against Australia could have been a lot more. And Australia's work is going to be cut out for them if Lachlan Tucker hadn't played the innings he did a few days back at the Gabba. But the gut here seems to be more on the cricketing heavyweights. Let me ask the gut of Niall O'Brien at 4 a.m. in the United Kingdom, whether he thinks Ireland have it in them for one more upset before they bow out. Niall.
Good morning, gentlemen. Brilliant stuff. Great start. Definitely. Yeah, my gut's all over the place. Stomach is churning. Lots of nerves in the camp here, I must say. Ireland have played well. Robbie and Tom alluded to, they've played well all tournament. They've got the capabilities to beat New Zealand 100%. They've played New Zealand this summer back in Ireland a couple of times. Should have turned New Zealand over, apart from a brilliant Bracewell century. So the two teams know each other very well. Ireland have played well. I wouldn't be surprised if they give New Zealand a good run for the money today.
All right. Well, they started well because they won the toss. I don't know if that's an advantage anymore or not, because teams batting first have won. Some teams back themselves chasing. As it turns out, Andy Balbirnie says he wants to chase against this New Zealand side. So he puts them into bat. And perhaps Kane Williamson would welcome this, Tom. The 2 games they have won. They've batted first. They've put on the big runs, scored big at the death. The one game they had to chase against England, it looked like the scoreboard pressure got to them. So New Zealand wouldn't mind this?
I think New Zealand would welcome the chance to bat first. It's a good surface from all accounts. Michael Atherton, just reading up on his pitch report, says that it is a batting fair surface, unlike a couple of other venues in this World Cup where there's been that sort of additional pace and bounce. Adelaide's a little bit more friendlier for the batting side. So it gives New Zealand, and I suppose more importantly, New Zealand's top order, the chance to really settle in without the pressure of chasing a total, to be able to bat long and bat deep.
Yeah, especially what we discussed about this New Zealand batting, Robbie. If you're a batting lineup that depends heavily on your top 2, your number 3, Kane Williamson's not sure about his form. Phillips good, but then again, soft underbelly. Do you prefer batting first when you have so many questions about your batting?
Well, yeah, as in you'd prefer to bat first under those circumstances, but you have to look at this side. This New Zealand batting side is a strong batting side. It's just that the likes of Daryl Mitchell hasn't played in the recent past because of his hand fracture, I think, and then he's come back in the side. So we saw how that affected his catching as well. Generally, he's got buckets for hands, doesn't drop catches, and let one go of Joss Butler in the previous game. But I feel like for the most part, their batting has been coming along well. It's good to have Glenn Phillips in the kind of form that he's at. You know that the top two, both Finn Allen and Devon Conway, are pretty dangerous once they get in. So I think it's just about them seeing off a couple of overs and then playing the natural game.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised though, Niall. I just felt like the way Ireland batted against England, those first 15 overs, that set the game up for them. Then they put England under pressure in a chase. I thought that would be the way they'd like to go about slaying another big team, especially a team like New Zealand. Does the toss result and the decision by Andy Balbirnie surprise you at all?
Yeah, a little bit. But what I will say and add that Ireland generally they love to chase. You know, whether it be 50 over cricket or T20 cricket, they like chasing. So it would have been a difficult decision for Heinrich Milan and Andy Balbirnie because they probably knew that New Zealand would have preferred to bat first. It's the kind of toss that Balbirnie probably wanted to lose, actually. But in saying that, Adelaide will be a very difficult ground to defend on because it's such a small ground, square of the wicket. And you've got the Ireland batters who love playing square of the wicket. Balbirnie, Sterling, Tucker, all these guys like playing square. They like playing pull shots, sweep shots, cut shots. So that's going to be playing into Ireland's hands, chasing later on this evening. So I'm a little bit surprised, but at the same time, I think Balbirnie's made probably just about the right call, and it gives Ireland a chance to get stuck into the New Zealand captain, Kane Williamson, who's been under a fair bit of spotlight recently for batting quite slowly. So there'll be a chance for Ireland to maybe get Kane Williamson under a little bit of pressure and put a little bit more pressure on that middle order, who've been pretty good so far.
All right, now we'll get to watch Josh Little in action first up. Josh Little actually doesn't mind New Zealand as an opposition. We did hear from Kane Williamson at the toss. These two teams are familiar. They've played some cricket against each other recently. And against New Zealand, Josh Little averages just over 12. He's got 8 wickets, strike rate of 9. That's pretty good opposition if you're Josh Little. And up against you is a player like Finn Allen, who, if there is a vulnerability, it does come against left-arm pace. We just look at Finn Allen in his T20I career so far. It's still relatively early days, but an average of below 11 against left-arm seamers. That strike rate is pretty good against anybody. So as long as he bats long enough, you wouldn't mind that. Finn Allen's a nice conversation right now. You know, Tom, with the way he started the tournament, he builds expectation. Is this the guy that's going to take it away for New Zealand? He's had 2 quiet innings after that. Is he the kind of player that sort of thing doesn't bother you?
Without knowing him personally, I would imagine the senior players and the management around him will be encouraging him to just express himself because he's got a unique talent. Not everyone can go out there really from the get-go and take the game on like he can, and his numbers, reflect that. He's still very new to international cricket, so I think it's a really delicate time for him that he is nurtured and looked after. It's so easy to point the finger and say, oh, you've had two or three innings and you haven't scored. It's the last thing you need to be doing to a player of that calibre and that style. You want to embrace their style, embrace their instinctive, the cricket they play, and let them go. I'd be doing the complete opposite to him. I'd be saying, your day today, catch fire, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. As in, if you've picked a guy like that in your side, you want him to go hell for leather from the get-go and just give him as much backing as possible, as much cushion as possible, as much encouragement as possible, as much conviction and belief as possible. And you want to kind of make him feel really good about himself because when the likes of him come off, and then you know that they can spin a game on its head and win it for you single-handedly.
All right, now Finn Allen versus Josh Little. Good matchup that, Niall. And Josh Little's, is it fair to say his stature has almost increased and risen in this tournament as a bowler?
Yeah, definitely. And those stats are back from the series in Belfast very recently where he was exceptional, Josh Little. Middle of the Irish summer, Heinrich Milan took over from Graham Ford, and Josh Little actually didn't bowl very well against India in a couple of T20 internationals, and he got a bit of a rocket actually from the new coach. Kind of didn't read him the riot act, but sat him down and said, "Listen, we expect more from you. You might be young, but you're actually a senior bowler in this group." And since then, Josh Little's stock has just gone, through the roof really with the 100. And this tournament, every game he just seems to want that ball. It's the attitude I love. We can all run in a ball fast, but it's the skill levels, the execution, it's the thinking on his feet for a young man who's playing on the biggest stage. But it's the bowler standing at the back of his mark that just wants that ball in his hand. Give me that ball, captain. I need a wicket. We need a wicket. So his attitude is exceptional. His stock has definitely gone through the roof, and he's bowling good pace. So it'll be difficult at Adelaide. As I mentioned, short square boundaries. Josh Little likes to bang the ball in. So those cross-bat shots, even a half a hit at the Adelaide Oval will go for 6. So it'd be interesting if Josh Little maybe pitches up a little bit more, maybe uses some of his slower ball variations, trying to outfox the batter, or if he keeps going for that, slamming the ball back in, back of length and short of length.
Yeah, Robbie.
He does like to hit the ball into the deck, does Josh Little, and I think he still does get a little bit of shape back into the right-hander. I think it'll do him really good and well to try and pitch the ball up in a place like Adelaide, because it's got the square boundaries, but the straight boundaries are pretty big. So, and then if he can get the ball, that new ball to swing back into the Kiwis, he can get them under pressure.
Yeah, we've already spoken of the questions around Kane Williamson's form. Daryl Mitchell still not been the Daryl Mitchell from the last T20 World Cup yet. It's a team that is unchanged. That's the reason we've not gone to those. Both these teams have not given us anything to talk about in terms of team news. They've played the exact same team. So it's fair to say, Tom, that now New Zealand back this to be the 11 regardless of conditions. They like Ish Sodhi, he does a job for them. We were wondering if they could do anything at all about their batting. Maybe the experience of Martin Guptill in a batting lineup that has some questions about them. But no, this is the team. Fair enough?
Yeah, and it's very typical New Zealand.
Yeah.
They're very consistent with what they do. They're very structured. As Kane Williamson said at the toss, he said that they're just focusing on their process. They respect Ireland. They know they're a threat, but really what our concern is us executing our game plan, and that is the Kane Williamson and the New Zealand blueprint is let's focus internally, let's get our game in order, and if we concentrate on that, the outcome will take care of itself.
All right, Ireland are also unchanged, so in spite of going down to Australia at the Gabba, no changes needed. Fionn Hand will continue to be the additional seam option for Andy Balbirnie, and what's a team that pretty much a number of them have put their hands up otherwise. Robbie?
You got to like that about the Irish side, right? As in, some of their bowlers had an ordinary day in the previous game, and the fact that they've still backed their bowlers, I think, augurs well for them in the future. For a team that's up and coming, to entrust that faith to the bowler and say, no, it's okay. You just had a bad day, and that's fine. Everybody has that, but we'll go ahead. We trust in your abilities, and that goes a long way in a developing team. And we've seen a lot of. And we've discussed that at length even yesterday, where we spoke about chopping and changing and how it affects the morale of a side. And I think they've done really well for themselves here with that selection.
Yeah. Mark O'Dara had an off day the other day. He keeps his place. Niall, fair enough. It looks like a team that's got the right sort of processes in place themselves, even though they may not sort of have the experience that some of their oppositions do. But Robbie's impressed by the consistency and the continuity in selection. Are you?
Yeah, and as a player, that's what you want. You want to know that the coaches are backing you. You don't want to be looking over your shoulder when you're playing, whether it be batter or bowler. You want to be able to go out and express yourself and play to your capabilities and know that the coaches are going to back you. I'm a little bit surprised. I thought maybe they may have changed one of Mark Adair or Fionn Hand. Fionn Hand got smacked in an over a couple of days ago. And Mark Adair, well, since the early stages in Hobart, it's been very disappointing. He's only picked up 3 wickets and his economy rate is extremely high. For where Mark Adair normally sits with his economy rate. So I'm a little surprised I haven't made maybe one change, but this is a huge game. If Ireland win this game and manage to qualify, manage to get in the top 4 of this group, they're straight into the next T20 World Cup. So, it's a huge game. There's so much context in this game. It's a game within a game almost, because what Ireland don't want, they don't want to be going in through the qualification route again, because we saw in Hobart, it's difficult to get out of those groups. Sri Lanka slipping up to Namibia, they could have easily gone out. West Indies went home. They went home early. So at all costs, you want to avoid that qualification process. So Ireland, 2 points today and maybe a result going their way, the back end, could see them straight into the next T20 World Cup. So I suppose Heinrich Milan is saying to Mark Adair, especially Mark Adair, his experience, saying, listen, you haven't been great the last couple of games. You owe me a performance here. Come on, get out there with that new ball. Nick a couple out early here and get us on that plane to the next T20 World Cup.
It's an excellent point Niall O'Brien points out, right? It's not only about one race to the semi-finals. The next T20 World Cup qualification is at stake for Ireland. And if at all that result happens, it just throws this group completely wide open, because New Zealand will then end at 5 for a team that beat Australia so convincingly in the opening day. So if the upset does happen, it has serious ramifications for this group, for Ireland going forward. And while New Zealand don't slip up, right? You can't remember a time when New Zealand lost a game that they were expected to win, against a team, even though Ireland are full members now, but even when they play the associates in the past, you don't remember New Zealand being subject to an upset in ICC event. That being said, Ireland's recent form, and especially the year 2022, gives a lot of people a hope. If you just look at them in calendar years, their win percentage in 2022 is 42.3. They've won 11, lost 15. Well, that's surprising. I thought they were better this year. But anyway, point being, they're actually an improved side. They played some tougher opposition in 2022. They won 3 out of the last 5. So this is something that augurs well for Irish cricket. Right. Let's spend some time on Kane Williamson again, shall we? Because if you're New Zealand, you'd like for Williamson to get some runs. Robin Uthappa mentioned looking into this game that this is the best opportunity for a player of Williamson's quality to find some runs. Gaurav Sundararaman gives us reasons as to people getting runs or not getting runs. Today it's about what's ailing Kane Williamson in his quest for big scores.
Kane Williamson's injury has affected his batting a lot. Recently he got an elbow injury, and as a result his certain style of play has changed. I looked at the data whether it's validating this. When you look at flick and drive, he struggled, especially against spin. He's not been able to score those boundaries. His balls per boundary are in excess of 20 balls, whereas against pace it's slightly better. So what has happened because of this injury is Kane Williamson has resulted in playing a bit of slog shots. And when you looked at the data for the last 1 year with slog shots, he's not been very successful. So I would like to ask the panel, how can Kane Williamson overcome this elbow injury and play his natural game?
All right, JS, thank you very much. Let's go to the top order batter first up. Trouble with the elbow, tennis elbow, whatnot. How does that affect what your range is?
It's an annoying injury, this tennis elbow thing, and it does not go away. It's such a freaky injury that there's no one way to kind of fix it, as in from a rehabilitation point of view. It's just about you stay off what you're doing. You don't bat. You strengthen it, and it seems like it goes away. And then it just if you just overbat even a little bit, by even 10 balls, it can come back again. You got to be so careful about it. And Kane Williamson is someone who loves to bat a lot. He loves repetition at the nets. He loves to spend time there and hit a lot of balls. And for him to not get what works for him as far as preparation is concerned must make him feel a little less like prepared in that sense. But he has to make do with what he's got. It's a challenge as an athlete, to be very honest, and it seems like he's trying to overcome it. As in, obviously, you hope that it's recovered, and the thing about the tennis elbows, it goes away as strangely as it comes.
Okay.
It can just disappear and never come back again. And I just hope he's gotten to that place where he can get back to what works for him. He's a lot like Nadal. I think he likes repetition a lot, and I think it gives him a lot of confidence. It gives him a lot of like the preparedness that you like as a batter, and the only way to overcome is go back to those flick shots and repetitions of that and feel good about them, right?
You've observed him from close quarters trying to cope with this injury and yet play, Tom. Has there been a difference in his preparation, in his approach?
Absolutely. Kane Williamson in the early days, you'd never see someone prepare as well as what he would do for any contest. Incredibly thorough. Right down to the real basics. He would have his pads on for 2 hours at a training session. It'd be very specific, his training and his preparation. It wouldn't be just sort of mindless ball hitting. It'd be very specific to the opposition that you're playing. If there's a left arm spinner playing, or if there's a left arm pace bowler playing the next day, he'd want to have that repetition and preparation in his net session. So that has been reduced dramatically. The other thing on top of that is that he hasn't played the volume of cricket that he has done throughout his career. So suddenly you're asking a player that is so used to, number one, having a huge amount of volume in their preparation, but two, not having game time. So he's lost a lot of rhythm in his game, and his game relies on both the volume of cricket out in the middle in competition and also the volume of practice in preparation. So that's been taken away from him, and he's nearly sort of found himself in a position where he's in an empty space, a little bit lost, because he feels not quite prepared, not quite ready, and he finds himself in the middle, hitting the field more often than not. That's what frustrated him just recently in the IPL, where more often than not, he'd play a shot, time a shot, it would go to the gap for 4. Every time he timed a shot in the recent IPL, it went straight to a fielder. And those types of things always happens to a batsman that's seeking runs. They either find a way to get out unusually, or their opportunity to score is not taken because they're picking out the fielder. And he's in that position at the moment where he's just picking out fielders, and there's nothing more frustrating for a top order player, particularly when they're walking into bat with field restrictions.
I think it's just an area of growth for him. I think as a person, I think it's a different kind of challenge for him as an athlete, and he has to find a way to overcome that. Yeah. And I think he's capable of it. He's got a very calm head on his shoulders, and it's something I'm very certain we'll see him overcome. I just think it's a matter of time about him figuring it out.
Yeah, the injury became popular in our part of the world because of Sachin.
Yeah.
And as I recall, who used to play with a heavy bat, and then after the injury had to use a lighter bat. I'm trying to think of, was that true, by the way, or was that a myth?
It does make a difference. I've had it, and for me it came as strangely as it went away.
Right.
Like it just like came out of the blue.
Did you change bats though? Did you?
No, I didn't. I just had to go off it, and then like I was like, okay, I can bat for 10 minutes today, bat for 15 minutes tomorrow, reassess, and then give it a couple of days break, then again, and I like to like bat volume, right, at practice. And so for me, I like to bat, if I'm playing a T20 game, I like to play 200 balls at practice so that I can prepare for 60 balls for a game. So I like volume. So for me, it was like quite challenging. Mentally, emotionally, can be very challenging, because you want your game to be at a certain place, you're willing to put in the work, but your body's not allowing you to put in the work. It's like, okay, you just have to figure out a way here, and it challenges you mentally, emotionally. And provides growth, I think, from a human perspective.
As bats go, does Kane tend to use a heavier one, or does he have the option of going lighter there? Does that make any difference at all?
Look, I think on the scale of what players use in the modern era, he's probably on the light side anyway. He doesn't really have a heavier bat. So it's not really for him the fact that, like with Sachin, he did use a heavy bat, and that certainly did have some sort of bearing on, the workload that was on his arm or his elbow. And he had a habit of spending a bit of time in the middle, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And I think for him it was more repetition. For him it was more repetition and volume. I think Paji's is more the time he spent with that heavy bat. And then, so I think that was that. For me, it happens differently for different people. I was doing something in the gym, and suddenly I did something, I felt something, and then it just came, and then it just went away like that.
Well, New Zealand would be hoping it just goes away. And a number of Ken Williamson fans, they tend to find themselves even beyond New Zealand. He's one of the most likeable people in cricket, in world cricket. So let's hope it goes away. Niall O'Brien's been listening to this very carefully. Let me get him to weigh in as well, or is he just going to be the typical Irishman that he is and say, yep, that's exactly what we're going to target. We're going to make sure life's hard for Kane Williamson today, knock him out. Give me another boxing match today, Niall.
Boxing match, yeah, beautiful. No, the only thing I say about Kane Williamson, it's a very interesting time for him. Just looking over his IPL last year, strike rate of 93, and this tournament just hasn't got going. It's more maybe for Moods as a coach who's been around the traps a long time. Is it a chance for Kane Williams to really reinvigorate his T20 game, I suppose? And does he need to be more aggressive in that power play when he gets to the crease? I don't know what Moods thinks with his coaching hat on.
Look, we had those conversations in the IPL, but every time he tried to press the button on that, aggressive style, and went to a couple of his go-to shots. I'll give you two examples. One was in the World Cup, the recent World Cup in the UAE, where he played his traditional scoop shot, just clipped his glove and got caught behind. So that's one of his boundary options, and it's a bit like Joss Butler. It's a bit of a banker. For Kane also, 99 times out of 100, he puts that away. He tried to do exactly the same thing in the IPL. Exactly the same thing happened. Such a rare dismissal for him. So he has tried. We've had discussions. I've had extremely long breakfasts with him discussing the whole, approach. And The other thing we need to take into consideration, I think teams have bowled a little bit better to him as well, because they haven't given him any width whatsoever. And with width, Kane, not only off the back foot, but the front foot can find boundaries, whether it be to the left or right of backward point, or he gets that soft single down to third man. So a lot of teams are angling the ball in and bowling a lot straighter on that hard length. So where you're needing that strong top hand, where his elbow is, he can't hit through as freely with that strong top hand. So there's a few things at play here, and let's hope that he gets a few half-trackers outside off stump that he can cut through the offside for 4 and he's up and away.
It's a funny game, isn't it? There's some blokes who really like that back over length on the body, so you can play that flick shot or the pick-up shot.
Yeah.
And then we have like one of the greats of modern day cricket today. We hit that line because of an issue. He's finding it hard to get off.
I'm just trying to think that sometimes as a sportsman you'd be able to better say this. If the adrenaline sometimes can just kick in. If you middle the first 2, suddenly the elbow feels fine for that particular day.
Yeah.
If you're not middling your first 2, missing and playing, and then you think, oh, my injury is really troubling me. So it's just about getting it off.
Yeah, it's about rhythm. And I think as he plays more matches, that rhythm will come back. I think it's about also him being able to practice the way he likes to practice, or just kind of in his mind figuring out a solution for how he wants to feel with the amount of practice that he can do at this point in time.
All right. Well, we've spent about 10-15 minutes on Kane Williamson. We're all hoping he just comes back to form. Usually when we spend so much time on a player, we talk him up and then he gets out first ball, or he goes for like none for 50 or something. Given that this is a conversation of hope and whatnot, we hope that Kane Williamson gets some runs. Uthappa has just hit some wood here as well, so he's a superstitious man next to me. Let me ask Niall O'Brien if there are superstitions in place today to get Ireland to get the job done. What's the number we're looking at, Niall, your first innings prediction?
I think New Zealand are going to play well. Flat track, small boundary square, the wicket, they'll be 175.
Okay, that should be pretty good if you're New Zealand. Tom Moody?
Yeah, I was thinking 188 today.
So it's basically going to be 188, but you can give me an answer if you
180, because I was thinking 175 as well, but I'll go 180.
Okay, between 175 and 188. So it does look like no one here is really expecting Ireland to get the job done. You would back New Zealand with their track record, and if they do get the job done, they will be top of that points table. First, let's see how their first 20 overs go, and join us at the end of it all on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricinfo T20 Timeout, and go and check out the all-new Cricinfoverse with Grand Vitara if you haven't already. It's the fans' newest destination where you can build your own avatar, interact with other cricket fans, get a virtual tour of the Cricinfo studios, and get a sneak peek at the advanced Grand Vitara from Maruti Suzuki. So visit the Cricinfoverse tab on your ESPN Cricinfo app for more. Look forward to your company at the end of the New Zealand innings. Do join us then. Bye-bye.